The sun blazed over the African savanna as I steered my jeep along the dusty trail, wrapping up my patrol shift, when suddenly, a small lion cub darted onto the road. I slammed the brakes, the vehicle skidding sideways, stopping just feet from the terrified cub. The tiny creature stood frozen in the red dust, eyes wide with despair, meowing helplessly. I stepped out, waving my arms to guide it away, but instead, the cub ran to me, pressing its paws against my knees and crying so pitifully that I knew something was terribly wrong. Then, turning sharply, it sprinted toward the tall grass, constantly looking back as if begging me to follow. I grabbed my backpack and trailed it through the heat until we reached a large acacia tree. And there, at the edge of a deep pit, the cub howled in anguish. My heart stopped. At the bottom of a poacher's trap lay a lioness, weak, dehydrated, barely breathing. Her cub cried from above, desperate and helpless. I grabbed my radio. "Base, this is Kofi. Adult lioness trapped, critically dehydrated, need rescue team and vet, urgent." Within minutes, my colleague Amar confirmed help was on the way. I tied a rope to a tree and descended carefully into the pit. The lioness tried to growl but could barely lift her head. Her tongue was dry, her fur caked with dust, she had been there for days. As I approached with a bottle of water, movement from the corner caught my eye. A sand viper, sliding silently toward her, froze. The lioness didn't notice the threat. Knife in hand, I crept around, heart pounding, then lunged forward, slicing just behind the snake's head. The viper writhed, fangs bared, before I struck again, ending the danger. I tossed it aside and turned back to the lioness, who watched me weakly but without fear. I poured water slowly onto her tongue. She drank greedily, her eyes brightening for the first time. "Hold on, girl," I whispered, stroking her dusty fur. A sudden shriek from above made my blood run cold. The cub was roaring frantically. "Hyenas!" I climbed up the rope, hands burning, and pulled myself over the edge. 6 hyenas surrounded the pit, circling, their yellow eyes fixed on the cub, who stood his ground, fur bristling, roaring with all his tiny might. The alpha male advanced, and the cub charged. Brave, foolish, defiant. I sprinted to the jeep, grabbed a flare gun and shotgun, and fired a flare overhead. The blast of red light startled the pack, but only briefly. They regrouped, snarling, ready to attack. I fired another flare beneath their paws, a burst of light and dust. The cub dashed to me, trembling, pressing against my leg. With only 1 rocket left and 6 predators closing in, I raised my weapon, ready for the worst. Then, from the distance, came the roar of engines, rescue trucks speeding through the dust. The hyenas froze, then retreated into the bush. Relief flooded through me as the team arrived. Kwesi, Abina, Kwame, and Ajoa, each jumping into action. The vet assessed the lioness's condition, administered a tranquilizer, and together we secured her onto a stretcher. The cub wouldn't leave her side, peering over the edge, meowing softly. "She'll live," Kwesi said after checking her vitals. "You found her just in time." Hours later, at the rehabilitation center, the lioness lay under IVs. Her cub curled up on a warm blanket nearby. Days turned into weeks. She grew stronger, the cub more playful, their bond unbroken. 2 months later, the vet declared them ready for release. At dawn, beneath golden skies, we opened the cage. The lioness stepped out first, feeling the earth beneath her paws, and let out a deep roar of freedom. Her cub bounded after her, chasing butterflies in the tall grass. She turned to look at me one last time, her gaze filled with gratitude and strength. Slowly, she approached, pressing her forehead to my chest, the ancient gesture of trust between man and beast. The cub copied her, standing on his hind legs as he had the day we met. I crouched down, scratched his ears, and whispered, "You're the bravest little warrior." He licked my hand and ran after his mother. I watched them fade into the endless savanna, the cub glancing back one last time before disappearing into the golden light, a living reminder that courage and compassion can still save what's wild and pure in this world.